All right. Welcome, everyone. Good. How's
Yes,
it going,
sir.
buddy?
Awesome. Look at you in a different setting over there.
Yeah, well, I did. We were at the cottage all week. I jetted home today thinking I'd be at the regular spot, but things got pushed back, and this is where we are now.
Yeah, my apologies. The joys of balancing and trying to do this while we're at work, but I didn't want to miss it,
Yeah,
so I appreciate the flexibility.
yeah. I can't complain. I like to be able to create the thumbnail and all that other jazz and settings at home, but as far as recording, it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter where it is. So episode last night, you just watched it, I believe.
Yep.
Called
Literally back here on the TV at work.
yeah. It was called what? Teach and Corrupt or something like that.
Mhm.
So we pick up exactly after the aftermath of the Slaughterfest last week.
Yep.
And what we got was a big setup episode. So there was this episode was, including this episode, was 3 episodes left. So we got some setup. We didn't really get many reveals. We got some interesting stuff, though, I found.
Yeah. Well, I think we were both a little surprised. I think we were both expecting like a full flashback to like what really happened on
Yeah.
Brendok or whatever it was called.
Brendok, yeah.
Brendok, yeah.
But yeah, we basically just got their tail ends of their stories. And, since speaking of Brendok, essentially this episode ends with how I think Brendok, the flashback will begin. Because we have Sol has May in prison, and he's like,
Yeah.
I need to tell you something, essentially. Yeah. And then we have Osha putting on the helmet that what we've learned is like a sensory deprivation and all that stuff. And
What's
I can't
it
help
called
but
again?
Cortosis is
Yes.
material.
So cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love how crappy the vision is in it. So you could tell he's more or less using the Force to guide himself as well.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like we're getting Osha's gonna not hallucinate, but she's gonna have the visions of the flashback, and May is gonna have the Sol narration of the flashback.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those two things are gonna combine with each other. I'm assuming they're gonna end up getting the same story out of it, and
I would think so.
We'll see how they react to that. But yeah, it was interesting for us to start at the end. But to touch on Sol and Osha, for one, we said last week he better be like on the emergency channel right away to say shit happened.
Yeah,
and he is, and has a lot of technical difficulty. So it's like, oh, they're building that in, but the original message actually does get through. So I feel like he did his part as far as that. And then I also liked how his character was written and how he portrayed it, because he's really like, he's hurting right now.
He's struggling.
As far as he's struggling.
He's struggling. Yeah.
He essentially got his whole team slaughtered, and he's really having a tough time dealing with that. Yep. We kind of speculated like he should know it was May right from the get-go. Being spending so much time with Osha, he should know that's a completely different person. Yep. And he plays it along essentially the whole time, but he knew, which again, I'm glad he knew the whole time and was just kind of working her. So yeah, he essentially, so his message gets through. Vernestra is seen talking to the Senate. And then this is where, again, one of the issues people had with last episode was how are they going to cover, or how are they going to explain the dead bodies and the missing Jedi? Yeah. And they literally drop in the piece that there's a power play going on with a senator who does not view highly of the Jedi. And you can, an incident like this will not help their cause.
Correct.
So Vernestra has been the one, the head of the small council, I guess you'd say. She's the one been spearheading this operation. So she personally goes. Yeah. And it was interesting when they're looking at the bodies, and that new Jedi we saw who went with her was basically like, his first suspicion was Sol did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If he survived,
the concept of another being is ridiculous.
Yeah, of something evil being ridiculous, and then who would have the power to kill 8 knights and Padawans, right? Obviously, the Jedi Master who survived. So it's interesting that they're in their investigation, they're leaning Sol / A / Osha, something like that. But there's something going on with Vernestra.
Oh, yeah.
First off, I think she says something that she alludes that she can feel some darkness, or there was some sort of darkness there.
Something to tip the scales.
Yeah, something to tip the scales, which I thought was
well placed.
A reference back to the senator, though, right? Because the senator was looking for something to tip the scales in his way, and like a bunch of slaughtered Jedi would.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
so you think there's a potential that like corruption in the Senate with this other forces.
Well, I don't think it has. I don't think the corruption has to do with what happened on the planet. I think the corruption is what's going to cause them to cover it up, like it never happened. So it's an interesting way to play off of, the Sith never happened. It was just like the small team of Jedi. They went to handle it. Crap happened, and they're going to sweep it under the rug as a rogue Jedi went, AWOL. Something happened. Yada yada yada. They could even. I know they investigated it and they proved it wasn't the wildlife or plant life, but they could even come back and put in the report, yeah, they were killed in the wild. Yeah. Right. So a lot of interesting thing going on there. We get to see the gratuitous whip shot that, like the only reason. Purple. Yeah, it's purple. And it's from the books.
Purple.
Yeah. If it wasn't from the books, I'd probably be a little more harder on it, but like they're incorporating. Like that's the character's weapon in the book, so that's a book thing, right? They're not going to change their weapon, but it looks a little silly. I'll be honest. It seems odd.
It's fair. It's a little odd.
But the reason we get the whip, because as we're parallel with our stories here, during Kumir's and Osha's story, we see when he does his first, I think the first full nudity in Star Wars. I know they don't show it, but heavily imply.
Walking around the buck.
Yeah, he has giant scars on his back, and those scars aren't straight. They look like could have been from a whip.
They do look like they could have been from a whip.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're from hers.
You don't think they're from hers?
No, because he makes reference, because he's like, how old are you? He's like, very, very old.
That's
my big question from this episode is, I hate to even say this because people actually watch this, but could this be who we think it is?
See, the old remark, I think, is the most interesting line of the whole episode.
Yeah.
Like, is he, it seems weird if he was just like 10 years older than you thought to say that. You know what I mean?
But like he's old.
Yeah. Well, Vernestra Vernestra, I think, is apparently 100 years old right now, or 120 or something like that in this time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So he said he was a Jedi and his master threw him out or whatever and did that.
He was a young one.
Yeah. So it's just lots of things aren't adding up. Like, why would Vernestra throw away her Padawan and potentially whip and scar him with the lightsaber? That's one. Nothing about that makes real sense. Like, that's just, I know the Jedi sometimes do some shady stuff, but that makes nothing sense of what the Jedi would do. Yeah. Or is he talking about he was never a Jedi? He had a Sith Lord as his master, and the Sith Lord gave him up as an apprentice or an acolyte, and now he's out on his own.
But he specifically refers to a youngling.
Yeah, he did say Jedi.
That is a Jedi.
Or did he say master, or did he say? There's so many.
He said something about like when we were young.
Yeah, he spoke in so many half truths. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost. I was watching it pretty baked, so I'm gonna have to go back with the captions on, and re-go through it, because he says a lot there, and there's a lot of stuff about the dark side, and it's obviously a lot of half truths because he's trying to seduce Osha.
His line of "It's only when you've lost everything you can truly be free." I was like, I think I want to turn to the dark side. Like, he's so good at it.
Yeah.
I don't think he's who we think he is, because that doesn't match the race, right?
Yeah.
The background.
Yeah, he seems human, but like, is there some sort of dark magic in play that's extending his life? Like, like it's, and again, is that a witch thing? Is that a Plagueis, Tenebrae? Again, I think Plagueis age-wise won't be the master. I think it's gonna be Tenebrous, however you say his name, Plagueis as master. And Leslie Headland has confirmed there will be 2 Sith by the end of this show.
Okay. So is Plagueis going to be the other master?
I feel like, I don't know. I think it's going to be, my guess would be it's Tenebrous, and Plagueis will eventually replace. Again, is Khmer Tenebrous's current apprentice? You know what I mean? Is he going to try to overthrow Tenebrous, and will he get struck down, and then he has to take on a new Padawan who becomes Plagueis? Or do they retcon again? The Plagueis novel isn't canon, and people will lose. We talked about this last week. People will absolutely lose their mind. But do they retcon Plagueis being a Mun and have him be?
Because I really like this guy as a villain. Like for the first time in many Star Wars, maybe the first time ever in Star Wars, like in a weird way, I'm kind of cheering for him.
He's easily the strongest part of the show. He's the strongest part of the show.
So good.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like, Star Wars has a history of killing off really good villains early. So like, if he doesn't become Plagueis or Tenebrous, I feel like he's going to be fodder. You know what I mean? I feel like and the crap storm he's kind of stirred up, if he's not part of that Sith lineage, it's going to raise, like, their attentions definitely must have eyes on it and sense that stuff like that's going down. So let me read you something. So this might kick it a little more different. So unknown planet. What planet did you immediately think that was?
The one from the very last movie.
Or Last Jedi. You thought it was Octo?
What's it called?
Like the planet Luke's exiled on? Is that what you did? I'm assuming that's what you were going to think it was.
No, I was thinking
Exegol?
Oh, but no, it doesn't look like Exegol at all. So maybe it is that planet where.
When you first saw the scenery, I immediately thought, would it be Octo? But it's like that was like the birthplace of the Jedi. But it's like, would the birthplace of the Sith be there? There was dark side energy there, but
absolutely,
I'll read you.
And there was caves, remember?
Yeah. Well, let me read you this. Okay. So there's a planet from the Plagueis novel. Okay. It's called Baldemnik, and here's the description. It is an ocean planet adorned with rocky tropical islands, located in the Outer Rim territories. With its extremely harsh climate, discouraged most people from ever visiting the planet, despite the beauty of its giant rock cliffs, pristine beaches, and vast azure oceans. It was mostly of interest of cartographers, xenobiologists, and fisherfolk until knowledge of the planet's rich deposits of cortosis ore fell into the hands of Sith Lords Darth Tenebrous and Darth Plagueis.
Well, that fits, doesn't it?
Yeah, really Leslie Headland is a fan of the EU, so I don't think it's any. There's a reason why she kept it unknown, because she didn't want everyone who knew that to immediately, it's going to be Tenebrous and Plagueis are showing up, or Khmer is one of them. So, and like he's literally sitting there when he's repairing.
We don't know Khmer's real name.
No, he's just referred to as the stranger, right? And you can, when he's sitting there repairing his helmet, you can see the cortosis vein going right up through the wall. Yeah. So it's that planet.
That's fair. And what's it called?
Baldemnik.
Sounds like somewhere in Ireland.
Baldemnik. Yeah.
Let's go to Royal Baldemnik, play some golf.
So if there was any doubt Plagueis or Tenebrous was showing up in the show, the fact that and this is the only time I think in Star Wars they've called something an unknown planet, because they're obviously they have to show it so that the big nerds can pick up on the details. Yeah, and you're not spelling it out for the casuals, right? So,
I think that's a good call.
Yeah, so we're getting some legit Sith Lords coming. It's just I don't think anyone has any idea how Khmer fits. Whether people think he's a Knight of Ren, he's a fallen Jedi Padawan who just fell to the dark side. Is he actually a Sith apprentice? Is he a Sith Lord? Like, we got 2 episodes for that all to get ironed out.
For sure.
It's very that's the most intriguing part of the entire show for me, that aspect of it. the more weaker part of it, and Kelsey, who's been watching it with me, actually said this episode, she's commented that she's like, I thought the acting was like pretty bad this episode. And I was just like, well, I'm like, Khmer and Sol are pretty solid. She's like, yeah. She's like, no, the main stars. So in relation to the twins. And I feel it. And I know a lot of people have been on it too, but does it bother you? It hasn't really bothered me all that much just because Star Wars is full of wooden acting and cheesy dialogue, but I'm here
for the story and how it moves that larger story along. I don't expect them to always hit it out of the park. I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else. Other than that, I want to go back and just listen to some of the Sithy type things he was saying.
So good.
But other than that, it was really just a cool setup episode, really.
Yeah.
Where we know next week is going to be an entire flashback. So that's going to leave us one last episode to wrap up everything. It seems like there's a lot of threads out there and not enough time. So like I hope they break the 30-minute format for at least the finale.
We're assuming it's a one and done.
I think there's a season 2. I think it was confirmed.
Gonna fucking have to be. They got 2 episodes to wrap up way too much. Like,
yeah,
this has got to be a 2 or 3 season show. Like,
yeah. So just a couple little nitpicks that I saw out there on the internet. Just to get your quick thoughts on them.
Yep.
Did you have any problem with him kind of going full nude?
No. I think it's part of the evolution of Star Wars. We saw it in Andor. They're just slow to get.
Yeah, Andor inferred a sex scene. Yeah.
Well, Andor inferred a sex scene. There was a real swear word. It started in a brothel. Like, there's been progression. I'm okay with it. I thought they did it very tastefully. Like, there was no like look back or flash. Like, it was insinuated, but I thought it was done very tastefully. I love the joke of like, can I at least put my clothes on?
Are you going to come in, or can I at least put my clothes on?
Yeah, like I liked it. I thought it was tasteful. Yeah, you? And
it did not bother me at all. Although as I was watching, I could just visualize some people freaking out and having a tough time with it. And I saw so many tweets being like, "This is supposed to be a kid's show." Like, just like, man, like,
your kids on the internet, they're fine.
Yeah. Hello there, Avengers Rising. The other thing I saw people whining about was how Cortosis is supposed to reflect back the energy, and he's in there repairing the helmet with a little welder thing. It didn't even cross my mind as I'm watching. It seems a little technical to
I would like to go back and hear his description on that, because I don't know if it does or reverts back all energy. He references that it bounces back lightsaber energy or kyber energy. But
what's the energy type?
Yeah.
Like if it's
He's not the Black Panther. Like, right? Calm down.
Yeah, like if it's a hot flame, I don't see that really being an issue. Plus, if you look at his helmet, there's streaks of like other metal in it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that Japanese pottery thing is. You know what I mean? Where it's like, well, kind of like Kylo Ren's helmet. It has the veins all fused through it.
Yep.
So like it really doesn't bother me. I find some people are just looking for reasons to nitpick episodes.
It's fine. It's impossible to offend us. You're fine. In terms of the close off thing, I mean, Avengers Rising, like, again, it was done tastefully. They've done how many shows without anything ever coming up? Like, shit's gonna happen.
It was very much like Kylo Ren when he had the shirt off and he's doing like
that was more awkward. That was way more awkward
because they're staring at each other and they're doing the hand touch. Like there was so much tension built up. Where this is just like she's kind of eyeing him up, but he's just like, I found he was almost trying to make him just feel so vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
He's trying to,
the Kylo Ren thing was way more awkward than that.
Yeah. Quimir's just trying to get this girl to trust him as fast as possible. And what other way would be to
take her clothes off? I mean, isn't that how we normally get? Yeah. Isn't that how you met your wife? You got together, you took your clothes off and said, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe she accepts you.
Maybe it could go one of two ways. Yeah. If you're not going to join me, let me put my clothes back on.
Yeah, and like I didn't have a huge problem with it. And as far as I think you mentioned, terribly written episode. I like where the story's going. Like, you can Some of the dialogue, is clunky. Yeah, I
The
agree.
acting
But that's
dialogue with May and Osha are not
May and
good.
Osha.
But I liked it as a setup. I thought it was cleverly written. I wouldn't say it was poorly written. I like it because they didn't try and bite off too much. I think in a lot of these setups, and Tyler, correct me if you don't agree, they can start creating too many different threads. I like that it was a setup, but they only stuck to the twin story and then Quimir. And they left it at that. Like I actually didn't mind the writing on this one.
Yeah, and like we knew where it was going. If we weren't getting the flashback this episode, they were gonna have to set up to the flashback. And like I said, it was a slower paced episode. It was a setup, right? It's not an action packed anything, but it really there's some interesting lore and tidbits and story sprinkled out through there. Whether that interests you or not, there is at least there's a little meat on the bone this time around compared to some of the other episodes. But yeah, it's like the fact that they're on Baldemnik. I don't think I don't think it's any other planet but that one. Like that seems like a slam dunk.
Yeah.
The fact that we're about to get Tenebris or Plagueis, I'm excited to see how that plays out. And I think the biggest issue with the show is the 30-minute episodes. With it trying to be a mystery and trying to like tie all these storylines together and how all these threads going, by having it 30 minutes and just ending at like very abruptly in these spots, a lot of people aren't getting the reward and the payoff they want. Like people are just impatient, right?
That's fair.
They need it. So I don't know what the solution would be. Give it longer episodes, or I don't know.
Then you could say
drop the first 4 and then drop the second 4.
So what do you?
Again.
Did you see anything else on there? You said you had a couple.
Sorry, my internet dropped there. Say that again.
I said you said you had a couple nitpicky things. Was there anything else?
Well, no, those were other people nitpickies. No, that was it. Like I said, my really own complaint is some of the acting is a little awkward and the short episodes. On episode 4 to abruptly end on the cliffhanger, and then this episode to abruptly end right as they're about to get into finally the Brendok. It's just, I just wish it was longer.
That's fair.
You
can call that good writing.
Yeah. Well, you know what the Acolyte's going to end up being is it's just going to like what they did with Kenobi. Someone's going to go out there and they're going to edit all these 8 episodes together, turn it into a 2-hour, like it should have been probably a movie, edit out all the junk, and it'll be really quickly paced with good action. And it's going to seem like a completely different for Kenobi. Yeah. There's a couple different cuts. They cut out all the trash and they're like,
really?
You could see it should have been a movie, but they obviously extended it into this.
Can you send me the YouTube link for that? I would legit watch that.
I don't know if it's on YouTube. I could try to find it.
Where did you find it? Where did you see it?
It went around for a while on Twitter and Reddit.
Oh, okay, fair.
I'll send you something. All right, rate this thing. What do you
got? It's the first one that's going to be out of an 8 for me. It was a good build, but there was some clunkiness to it. I'll go 7.7, and I'll go from a 7.5 to a 7.7 just because I like the tasteful nudity. I'll go 7.7 because I like that they didn't overcomplicate the build. You?
Yeah, we're on the same brain. I'm 7.7.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a setup episode. It is what it is, but I thought there was some good tidbits of lore in there, and the cinematography was an improvement over the previous episodes. It wasn't completely. Lots of these episodes have been dark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it's hard to see. Yeah, 2 out of 10. It seems to be that way. There's people who love every episode. That's a 10 out of 10. There's people who hate every episode, and then I feel we've kind of been on the positive side, but we're not like over the moon. It's not Andor.
I think we do our best to find some of the positives, link it to bigger lore. It's very rare Avengers Rising for us to get anywhere near a 10, but it's got to be horrific for us to dabble below a 5.
Yeah, like right now, if you put a gun to my head and say, give me rank Disney's live action shows, right? It's probably number 1. For me, it's probably like Andor, Mandalorian, Ahsoka, then probably The Acolyte.
Yeah.
And then Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi bringing up the rear.
Yeah.
So
Fair
it's
enough.
not the word, but again, like there's 2 episodes here that could blow my mind.
Yeah.
And
Looking
jump
forward
it up a little bit. It all depends on how they stick this landing. And we're right on the cusp of it. So it'll be interesting to see how it happens. But yeah, so that'll wrap it up for us. Everyone, let us know in the comments what you gave this episode. And again, let me know what you think Quimir will be. Is he just a random apprentice? Is he Tenebrous? Is he Plagueis? What's it going to be? I'd love to know everyone's theories. I need advice on webcam. I should do the live stream. Logitech, the Logitech ones.
Yeah. Find the best Logitech you can on sale for $50 and run with it.
Yeah. The one thing you'll find is webcams, they more or less all look the same. Like mine is just a Logitech 1080p right now, the one I'm using. My wife has a 4K. They don't look any different. You got to get into like the more studio cameras to get up to the next level quality. So
correct.
If you're doing webcam, I find you can't really go wrong.
No.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see you all next week. Peace out, everyone.